Join me over coffee as we delve into topics that affect our everyday lives. And today I'm in conversation with Chief Craig Ambrose, and he is the Chief of Police of the Owen Sound Police Services. Whew, what a mouthful. But we all know that everyone in our community wants to have a sense of safety and a sense of security. And our police services is doing an amazing job on balancing all the balls that are in the air, trying to create a community where we all feel welcome and safe. And thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. It's much appreciated, and thanks for the opportunity to come and chat today.
Oh yes, because as my viewers know, I am such a strong supporter of our community, and I always look for the good. And one of the things that struck me from years ago, we've been in this community about 40 odd years. It used to be the Owen Sound Police Department, and now it's the Owen Sound Police Services, which just changes the dynamic entirely. And what I've appreciated so much is how the police services are so integrated into our community.
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate that. And, you know, if you go back years ago, it was a police force, and it was about using force. It was about, an us versus them mentality. And then, as you said, it was a police department, and now we've moved to a police service. And really, that is, we're here to serve the public. We're here to serve the members of the community. That's everybody. That's not, just the person that's making the phone call or the concerned citizen that's got a complaint that they want to deal with. That's the individual that we're dealing with that's downtown and maybe coming from a marginalized community. And, that's providing them with resources, providing them with contact information, letting them know what's out there to help them and support them. So really, we are a service, and we try and balance that. And really, the only way that we can work effectively is with community support, and that's key to our interactions, because way back to Robert Peel, it says, the community is the police and the police is the community. And, so we have to work and build those relationships. And one of the things when I first came to Owen Sound that I really concentrated on was the working with our partners and community partners, and identifying those community partners that, there were relationships with some of them that you can always improve that relationship. And then there were some that we didn't really have relationships with. And it was key in order to provide a well-balanced service to have relationships with all those community partners. And we've really expanded that opportunity, and now we're starting to realize and see some of the benefits of those.
Well, as I said at the beginning, every person walking this earth wants a sense of safety and a sense of security. And I have heard, I'm part of the gray-haired brigade now, where people have said that, they didn't always feel safe walking downtown. But I have always felt a sense of safety when I'm downtown. And part of the reason I hope is the fact that every person on the street needs eye contact and a smile. And people need to feel as if they're being seen, and as if they're being acknowledged. And so I see everyone in our neighborhoods as our neighbors, and as due respect and dignity.
Yeah, and certainly that's our role. There are concerns about safety downtown, and yes, we've had some incidents, but really it's a perception of safety more than it is an actual being safe downtown. Mm-hmm. And that's really where we have to work at right now is continue to do what we're doing. We brought back the core team 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago now, where we have proactive response downtown. We have officers there. We promote those officers being on bike, being on foot, interacting with the public, interacting with the shopkeepers, being the face of the organization down in the River District and downtown specifically, but anywhere where there's a problem that is more than just you can handle when you go for a call for service. And if there's an ongoing issue, or if there's some type of thing, this is our proactive response. This is our opportunity to really dig a little bit deeper, put people in contact with those community partners, work to get to the problem of it. Our core officers they report and take a lot of people to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan situation table, the STAR table for Grey Bruce, where all the stakeholders sit around that table, and because there's a concern for that individual's well-being, and it's an acutely elevated risk, it meets the criteria and a factor that they can bring that forward, and then all those community partners come in, because oftentimes what we're dealing with is the tip of an iceberg, and it's only one factor that really needs to be dealt with. We're dealing with, we see petty crime, or we see something else, and really it has to do with the fact that there's food insecurity in the residents, or if we see somebody, or we're dealing with a youth and there's problems there, well, they're not at school, and there's no that they're not getting breakfast, they're not getting the supports that they need at home, they don't have those things in place. So taking those people and working with our community partners as a wraparound service and not as the primary service is really to our benefit.
Well, it's a real balancing act, because you have all the balls in the air going all the time. I truly appreciate every time I'm downtown, I see an officer just strolling by, just being there. And I always give them a smile, because I'm just grateful to see them. But Owen Sound particularly is a small city. But we have all the challenges, all the good stuff, and all the challenges of a large city. And I think one of the benefits of being in a smaller city is you get to know pretty much all of the players and the characters and the wonderful people in the community.
Absolutely, and coming from a larger municipal service that I came from, I'd sit in a briefing and I'd hand out, video surveillance, captured images from video surveillance, from all different stores, and say, this person's wanted for shoplifting, or this person's wanted for this or that. And I would pass it around, and you'd have 20 officers look at it and hand it back, and the likelihood of somebody being identified from that, because of the anonymity, because of the sheer numbers, that doesn't happen here in Owen Sound. When we send out a briefing or an email and it's got a picture of somebody, within a few minutes somebody says, that's so and so, and this is who they associate with, this is where they were living last I knew, and this is what they're driving. And we solve a lot of crime because we know the people involved in the community, and we are the community. We're the police. That's our strength as community policing, and knowing who's here. And when you talk about, your neighbors, we know our clients.
Yeah. And
really, that's the strength and the opportunities that we have, is that we can solve crime and we can deal with things.
Well, you also have the wraparound services. If you're knowing the person, then you have an idea of their living standards, their financial situations, their food insecurity, or whether they're homeless. So you already have a lot of background information, and the wraparound services in our community to support what you're doing.
Absolutely, and our officers, they're there. They're handing out socks, they're provided by the United Way. They're handing out gift cards provided to people. We're making sure that we're not going to an encampment and just kicking them out and moving them along. We're going there with Grey County Housing and doing an encampment walk and saying, there are alternatives out there for you. We're not just doing it on our own. And the police historically have gotten involved, and they do a lot of things that aren't necessarily police work. And mental health is a great example. We filled a void. Starting years ago, we started filling a void for mental health supports, and now we have a partnership with CMHA, Grey Bruce, where we have 2 different individuals working with us, then traveling and riding right in our cruisers, and being able to provide the right services at the right time to members of our community. And that's one thing that I'm really proud of, that we actually have that implemented, and we've expanded to a 2nd individual now, so there's more the extended coverage into the afternoon and evenings. And so those are the types of things where we don't need to be the ones in charge. We may have to help, we may have to support, but when you talk about community partnerships, that's where it's important.
Well, I do have an anecdote to tell you. Yep. As I said, we were going to share good stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was before the mental health ride-along happened. But I did have to call police services for a health and welfare check. And the officer went and did a welfare check, and he was absolutely amazing. And he saved this person's life because he just knew, maybe background information, maybe had an understanding of the situation, but he was able to transport this person to the services that she needed up at the hospital, and saved her life. And this was before the mental health services ride along. But the officer had that training.
Yeah, so we offer our officers a lot of training. That's one thing that I'm really pleased at, that there's never been any questions about our training budget and the need to train our officers well. And it's one of those things that if you invest upstream, you get the benefit of it downstream. Our number of complaints, we have an amazing staff, we have amazing officers that do great work, and a lot of it is providing them with the tools they need to do the job and expanding that toolkit and making sure they have that training. So we work with CMHA Grey Bruce, and we provide assist training with suicide intervention training that, that's getting to be standard across the board for all of our frontline officers, whereas a lot of other services don't have that opportunity. So, we've really pushed, working with our partners and providing the right training. We've partnered with the school board recently to provide violence threat risk assessment training to our staff and their staff, so that if something were to happen at one of the schools, everybody's speaking the same language. Everybody knows exactly what to do, how to do it, and everybody's talking, working from the same playbook, so to speak, because we've all been trained together and it's joint training with them. Those are the types of things that we need to do in order to effectively do our work.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because training is that police force training is different than police services training. But I'm just going to throw a little note in here. How many thank you notes do your officers get?
You know what, it's surprising. We actually get quite a few.
Oh, good, because you got one for me.
Yeah. No.
That officer who saved this person's life, I was so grateful that I actually wrote them a personal thank you note.
Yeah, we actually, our community, as I said, they're very invested in what we do, and it shows in the number of thank yous and the number of letters that we receive from them and support from the community, and that might be the only call that they have to, as a place of reference to working with the police. And I always say to our officers, it might not be the biggest thing in the call in the world to you, but take the time to deal with it properly, because that might be the only time that individual calls the police for 30 years, and that's what they're going to remember. That's what they're going to have in their mind when they think of the police and working with the police. And if you don't take it seriously and you don't provide them with the service level that you'd expect if you were calling, then how do you expect to have the support from the community? So we talk about the theft of the lawn gnome, and it might not seem like a lot to the individual who's taking the call, but the individual who suffered that loss, who knows what the back history is on that piece of art, and it's significant. So we always have to think about the impact on the victim.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. But I was reading your article that was in the Sun Times about we're talking here about all the good stuff that is happening, but there was a note here about a social navigator program, but it also sounds like you're already doing so many of the good things that need to be done to support the safety and security of our community. So what would a social navigator program be about?
So basically, we have a core officer that works downtown. We're trying to, like everybody in employment these days, we're trying to augment and keep our staffing numbers up. And when you lose an officer, just for community's reference, if an officer leaves today, and we can't find an experienced officer from another community who wants to come and move to Owen Sound, and we have to.
And why would they not?
Well, exactly, and we're actually promoting that right now. Because we do have an amazing community and an amazing location, and it's a choice place to live, and you can sell your presence in the GTA and come up here and afford to live nicely. But if somebody leaves in January, by the time we post for that position, interview for that position, hire, get them into the Ontario Police College when they only do 4 intakes a year, you're at 9 months to 1 year before that person actually is on, because they have to come back from their police training, they have to do training with us, then they have to ride along with an experienced officer who coaches them and mentors them as they develop their skills and build on the skills and the base foundation that they got at the college. By the time that person's actually taking the car keys and driving by themselves, it's at least 9 months or longer. So when we get and we don't have a pool of officers sitting around waiting to take and fill that void. So when we lose an officer for whatever reason, we've had 3 retirements this year, and congratulations to those officers. They've done their time, they've moved on, they've retired. But in order to fill those and in order to get those people up to speed, you're almost a year by the time those officers are taking that, and they're not working at the same level. Obviously, they're just learning their skills and honing their skills, but at least they can work independently after 9 months. They're still going to need more supervision than the person that's walking out the door, obviously, but it's a lengthy process to train and get people up to speed. And when you have 3 retirements, that's significant. Our workforce, our experience on the road has gone down and dropped over the last couple of years. We've had so many new officers hired that we'll be over 25% of our police service was less than 2 years experience.
Oh my gosh. So there's another ball that's just got thrown up in the air that you need to balance with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I didn't realize that the training, there was the preparation, the training and then the preparation would take so long to replace one officer.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm very grateful to see is that there is a gender balance within the police force.
Yeah, that's something that we've really worked on. It's important to me that our service reflects our community, and our community is changing. And just in the last 6.5 years that I've been here, there's been a big shift in demographics to the city, and we're trying to reflect that as well. And we've been successful in hiring diverse candidates and female candidates, and really, I would love to see the proportion reflect that of the community. We're working towards that. We're playing catch up. There was a lot of years where there wasn't a lot of diversity and there wasn't a lot of female officers hired. And we have to get to that tipping point where everybody sees themselves everybody can see themselves being in this role and being in this position and being as a police officer. If we want to get those people in the door, they have to be able to see themselves in that role, and that's cutting the edge and making sure that we get those diverse and female candidates into positions.
Well, that's great, because it's really important to be a reflection of our community when you're providing services and wraparound services and collaborating with all the other organizations that are working with you, and your department, your police services are working with them and they are working with you, to see a reflection of our community. Because I think I mentioned to Mayor Ian Boddy at one point that in Ambrose counties we have 70 spoken languages, and we don't always see that. And particularly if we have, as Dave Shorey from Georgian College was mentioning, they have new students coming into the community from different countries. So now we have new languages, and how do you navigate a difficult situation when there's that language disconnect?
Yeah, so we have we have an amazing community services officer, Jason Granny, who you probably are familiar with. And
he's adorable. Oops,
he does an amazing job, and he's really taken it to the next level as far as our partnerships with the community. And we do a lot of work with Grey Bruce, local immigration partnership, and a lot of the Alliance Church with some of our refugees that have come into town, and building those relationships and creating those opportunities. We've had YIPI students, our Youth in Policing Initiative students in the summer. We've had a Ukrainian girl working with us. We've had people from African countries that have come and worked with us, and getting them real-life job experience and getting them exposed to policing, because quite honestly, some of them, where they're coming from, they don't trust the police, and it's building that trust, it's building those relationships, and Jason's done an amazing job doing that. His work with the local mosque has been outstanding as well, and all of our cultural groups. But in particular, the mosque, they had some incidents there of hatred and vandalism, and we had to deal with that. But you know what? It's only made our relationship and our partnership stronger with all those community groups. And when you talk about the languages, we offer services so that we can, if somebody calls in looking for a specific language, we can translate that language and get somebody on the line to talk to them and make sure that we can gather that information. When you talk about the new students at Georgian College, Jason goes up and does a presentation at the beginning of the school year when all those international students are coming here, and introduces himself and sits down specifically and speaks with the international students to say, you know, policing may be different where you're from, but where we are here, you can trust the police. You can approach the police. You don't have to pay for policing services. You don't have to pay for protection, all those different things. So there's a lot of outreach that goes on to those new community members in order to make them feel welcome and make them feel safe.
Well, I always knew that this was a great community, but I am really enlightened by all the services that you are talking about today. Some of them are new to me. I didn't know that Jason worked that hard in connecting with that, and I always saw him as an asset in our community. That I have interviewed him a few times over the years and acknowledged the work that he did, but it's ever expanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, years ago, you think about the community services officer or the role of the officer. You know, that was the officer in the schools. That was the, you know, spending time in the public schools, spending time in high schools, all those different things. That's a portion of his job now, but he is really connected to the whole community. He's really broadened that a lot. Not only the immigration side of things and the partnerships with new Canadians, but partnerships with older adults and doing presentations to older adults on frauds and scams and all of those things that take place within our community, and really making sure that he's very evidence-based and evidence-supported, and the whole police service is moving towards that type of evidence-based and data-driven type of response to crime and response to community problems. But Jason has taken that to the community side of things and said, okay, who are we missing? Who do we need to connect with? Who do we not have a partnership with? Where does that need to go and what needs to happen? And those communications that have gone out and those partnerships that have developed, like I say, he's well known within the community, and the police service as a service is certainly well known. And you mentioned right off the top that those are the partnerships that we have developed since we've in the last few years we've really built on those.
Well, the other thing that you just mentioned that is just chronic all the time, and particularly being targeted to the gray hair brigade, are the scams. They're constant all the time. How do you keep up with this? Because some of them are, you know, boots on the ground scams, but others are, you know, email and texting and phone calls, which could be from anywhere in the world.
Absolutely, and it's not just you know, the elderly community or older community. Well, I guess I am in the older community part of the group now, but my phone went off in a meeting this morning saying likely. It came up with a number and it said likely spam, and so fortunately I was busy anyway and I didn't answer it, but everybody gets those calls. If you have a phone and you're connected, you will receive scam calls, and you know what? If you don't know who it is, don't give them any information and don't get involved. And as you say, they can call you from anywhere in the world, and they can reach out to you through the internet from anywhere in the world. And there are people that's all they do is sit on the computer and try and find somebody who will become a victim. And you know, unfortunately, they prey on people's vulnerabilities, and you know, that whether that's being lonely, whether that's needing, you know, concerned about security, and then they start you know, getting information from you about your security. You know, they'll do anything they can, and unfortunately, they're, you know, much as technology has advanced their science of how to do that, they're using technology to advance it further, using AI in order to be more effective at what they do. And we have to become more effective and educate people and make sure that people are really aware. You know, don't give out any banking information. Don't answer calls from people. Make sure that you have, you know, you initiate the contact. It may say a call's coming from the Owen Sound Police Service. It's very easy to mimic that and spoof that. So it's not coming from the Owen Sound Police Service. Your email it may say it may appear that it's coming from a certain email address, but if you look into the data, it's not necessarily that email that it's coming from. And those are the types of things that people have to become aware of, and we have to educate the community, because it's constant and it's going to get harder and harder.
Well, yes, actually, on Over Coffee, I've done 2 shows on scams.
Yeah.
One with Carolyn from the United Way, and one with Angela Jensen from the legal clinic. So we've done 2 on scams, because they're forever prevalent. But at the same time, it hinders the capacity of the police services to deal with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we take a lot of reports, and when people suffer a loss, it's one thing if they're reporting that they've been, somebody's attempted to scam them. We have the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center that people can report that to, and they track the challenges, and they track the people that are doing it, and they track how many are being affected locally in that. The hard ones are when people are scammed locally and they suffer a loss, and we get involved and we start conducting an investigation. It's timely, time-consuming, pardon me. It's difficult because everything now has an electronic component, and so that means production orders or warrants and judicial authorization to do those things, and so that just builds on the workload. It's not a simple just take a report, go and speak to somebody. Now you're digging into, it could be it could be a platform that's based in the States, so you have to do a mutual MLAT, which is called, to get assistance in the States and get that information back. So it's not simple. Everything in policing gets more and more difficult all the time, and that just opens the door to another conversation.
Well, then I have to ask you this. With all the balls in the air all the time, and you're balancing this, Craig, what brings you joy?
You know what? For me, it's making a difference, and it's. I always looked at the opportunity here in Owen Sound as a challenge, and I was looking for a new challenge, and I was looking for an opportunity to challenge myself, and I've certainly found that. And yeah, there are days where it's a challenge, and there isn't a lot of joy. I'll be the first one to tell you that. You go home and you just wonder, what have I signed up for? But really, it's those other days where you make an impact and you make a change, and you recognize that something in the community has changed, and our police service has done amazing work, and it's helped somebody. Whether that's the victim of crime, whether that's somebody who needed a support, whatever that is, there's the good stories too, and you have to take those with the bad.
Well, I'm glad that you've got good stories too, and thank you so much for taking the time today to spend with us. I learned a lot from you, thinking I knew a lot about my community, but I did learn more, and thank you. And wow, that was an amazing conversation. So join me next time over coffee.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to play